This took me 5 minutes to color, and this took me also 5 minutes. The difference? I actually understand light now, and I'm gonna ruin the way you see shadows forever. You're welcome. So here's what most people do. They grab a dark purple, set it to multiply, airbrush it on, and call it good enough. And I know that because I did the same thing for years. So the multiply layer kills saturation by itself, especially if you use a very dark color. To fix that, change the color of the shadow to be the same color as the room you're in or the sky if they're outside. A desaturated mid-tone blue does well generally speaking. Pair that with subsurface scattering on the skin, bounce light, sharpening and softening the shadows based on how far away the shadow is from said object, and boom, night and day difference. Shading isn't just about making things darker or making things lighter. It's about understanding where light touches and where it doesn't. That tiny reframe changes everything. Let me go ahead and show you a more in-depth way of explaining this. So here's a circle. This is your new best friend. So before you touch anything related to shading, look at your screen and decide, where's the sun at? Where's the light source? Top left? Cool. Now everything in your piece obeys that direction. There are 5 specific zones within shading: the highlight, center light, mid-tone, terminator, and bounce light. Each part of the sphere matters, so I'll go over them briefly. The terminator is the most important, as it's the defining line on what is light and what is dark. Most artists start there and branch out to the more difficult parts of shading after. Next, we'll talk about the center light. That's the light that shines directly from the light source. If this object is a shiny object or a glossy object, there should be a highlight. Matte objects don't really need highlights. Midtones are the colors between light and dark. That's usually our base colors before shading, by the way. Bounce light is the light from the environment bouncing back onto the piece. This usually takes the color of said environment, like the sky, for example. Pro tip: the bounce light helps your character actually feel like it's in an environment. Most beginners skip this step entirely. Once you add that, it's a pretty big difference. Don't forget subsurface scattering if you draw a lot of living things. Skin is translucent, which means somewhat transparent. Subsurface scattering is the light inside the translucent objects. Under the skin is blood, so there will be red hints along the terminator line for the skin. I did some studies while doing this research for this video to show as an example, as well to practice myself, because most of these videos, if I post them, that means I need to work on them too. So yeah, let's learn together. Anyway, I was particularly interested in the planes of the face because I personally struggle with knowing where exactly to put the light on the face. It's something that's always been a struggle for me, so I thought I might as well just tackle it and use some references and finally figure simply drawing the planes on the face on a more realistically proportioned face, and then after that a more anime style face, something in more my own style, really helped me visualize everything so much easier. That's why anytime I talk about learning how to draw, references are so important. It's a night and day difference sometimes. All you have to do is just replicate a reference and then you understand it. It's just that easy sometimes. I do have to admit though, the anime planes of the face look really freaky. I draw anime characters so much that I forget how exaggerated they are compared to actual human faces. So it's definitely a freaky. When shading, you'll want to visualize where the light is coming from. As I mentioned before, when I'm drawing a really complicated piece, I usually draw the light source with like a little light bulb where it's supposed to be at on my sketch layer, just so that I don't forget where the light source is from. More often than not, I'll forget halfway through and start shading the opposite way and have to start completely over. Like it's a struggle, so don't feel bad. That was a lot of theory put onto you at once, and I am so sorry. Feel free to rewatch that part of the video slowly. Come back to it later as you're learning the rendering process. I promise it gets easier over time. But let's actually draw now and show you why that theory actually matters. So here's the project that I wanted to work on. I actually wanted to make a short about this because I saw another short, I think it was on TikTok, of this artist who made this animation of a light source going around the character, and I tried for the life of me to find this thing. It has only stayed in my memory. I did not like it. I did not bookmark it. I did not do nothing. So I am so sorry. I cannot credit this artist that I got the inspiration from. If you know the original artist that does this, or if it's just a trend and I'm just reading into it way too much, I want to be able to credit them. So if you know who it is, put their artist name down below so people can look them up and give them a follow. But yeah, I really wanted to do this because I thought it would be a really great way for me to practice my shading, which I do need. Every once in a while, every single artist needs to go through, you know, fundamentals boot camp where they just need to study a little bit, and it's always beneficial. Just don't do it to the point where you hate it. But yeah, I'm rambling. So this is the project that we're doing in this video. I do want to point out, shadows are not just a darker version of the base color. Say it with me, they shift in hue. Yes. I want to make this easier for you. Really quick, I'm going to show you exactly what I mean by doing it the wrong way, and then we're going to do it the right way. As I'm shading the skin, on the one that I'm not doing correctly, I'm just going directly down on the color picker. I'm just going straight down on the color picker. I'm not adjusting anything. I'm just making a darker version of the color that I originally had on the skin. And as you can see, as I'm drawing, it is a very, very muddy. It is very muted, and she almost looks like a zombie. Now, what I'm doing on the right version is I am adjusting the hue and the saturation and the darkness at the same time. So really all you need to think about is this. If you're doing a darker shadow on something, you color pick the original mid-tone, you go down 45 degrees on the color picker, and then you adjust the hue either left or right, just very, very tiny bit. And then you color it on there, and then it's perfect. I do want to point out, we can do this a lot easier and faster with a multiply layer. Multiply layers can be a hit or miss though. I do want you guys to keep that in mind. A lot of pro artists actually avoid it entirely just because of how easy it is to make it look bad. But me, I have a system. I try to utilize it because the speed is just too much to miss out on. I used to hand render absolutely everything. It took me 8 hours to finish a piece, and I just didn't want to have to do that. I like making money as an artist, so I didn't want to go slower than I had to. You know what I mean? But the main downside to multiply layers is that it really drains out your colors, and if you choose the wrong color, it can make your entire piece look muddy. Like I talked about before towards the beginning of the video, if you use like a dark purple or a black when that's not necessary, then it's just gonna look weird. It's gonna look weird and it's gonna look bad. So that's why I say tread carefully with multiply layers. Later in the video, I do have a few tips on how to make the multipliers work a lot better, so definitely stick around towards the end of the video. I'll give you a lot more information on that. But the easiest way to make multiplier layers look a lot better is by copying and pasting multiply layer. Make one of them overlay, either the top or the bottom, whichever one you like the look of. Play with the overlays on each of the layers, and then it kind of balances out the whole muted colors, especially if you like really bright colors like I do. So with these 2 steps only, it is already looking so much better. But wait, there's more. The hard shadows with the multiplier and overlay layers look okay, you know, but there's more we can add to this to make it look more realistic and alive. So not all shadows are harsh and not all shadows are blurry, believe it or not. Knowing when to use each one is what separates pretty good from how did you do that? This is called the inverse square law, or more commonly called light fall off. This basically means the intensity of the shadow falls off exponentially as it travels further from the object. The farther the object is from the spot the shadow is cast on, the blurrier it gets. So to make it even more simple, hard edges are where 2 forms meet, under the chin, cast shadows from the hair, etc. Soft edges are like gradual curves, cheeks, arms, generally rounder surfaces. The easiest way to go about this is to start hard and soften later. It's way easier than trying to sharpen a blurry mess. So as an example, in this speed paint, I'll show you specifically how I'm softening the edges. I'm using the paint and apply brush in Clip Studio Paint. It's one of the default brushes. It's really, really, really useful. I really enjoy it. It's a very nice brush. Highly recommend. So first off, there's no blood in them cheeks. We're gonna have to create a clipping mask over the multiply layer, move the hue of the shadow closer to red rather than blue, and then I'm gonna use that airbrush to softly add red to the multiply layer on the skin. And I'm doing it specifically on the edges between light and dark. So on that Terminator line is where I'm adding that subsurface scattering. I try not to play with the saturation or the darkness or the lightness of the color. I try to keep everything the same as the multiply layer except for the hue. So just keep that in mind. Last step for the shadows is, of course, the bounce light. So this is one of my favorite little touches that really brings the piece together, makes it feel like it's an actual space, an actual environment, and it tricks the eyes to really feel feel like it's actually real. I don't know. It's just that little chef's kiss kind of moment. I put those on the very edge of the piece, opposite of the Terminator line. As you can see with the sphere, the bounce light is on that little side right there. It's easier to show than it is to explain with my voice, so there you go. Make sure to look at the screen at this part. I usually like to make it an airbrushed effect, but if you're in like a super high contrast or you're wanting something to really pop, using a solid line will also help a ton. I literally just added 3 strokes and look at the difference. I love this step. I love this step so much. Once that is done, we're going to finally merge the multiply layers. There's going to be like 4 or 5 clipping masks on top of that multiply layer. We are going to merge them. If you want, you can go ahead and make a folder, but we're going to go ahead and merge that. And then we're going to copy it. We're going to paste it. I usually put the bottom one as overlay, opacity percentages a little bit. And the final step of this rendering process is some simple highlights. I try to be more subtle with the highlights nowadays. I used to go way too extra on it, but it really doesn't need to be that crazy unless you want it to be. I break the rules a little bit. I do use a solid white or maybe a very light yellow for my highlights, but I do lower the opacity a little bit and turn the layer into an overlay layer. So that way it's not completely white and washing out the piece. It blends in a little bit, but it still has that, you know, that anime sparkle. Now, when it comes to finalizing the piece, I'm gonna make my own video about that because I think it's further like a step after shading, because you don't really need these kinds of things in order to make a piece look finished. All I really need is the shading. Anyway, I usually put like chromatic aberration on the line art just a little bit. I add a noise filter. I do some color correction here and there. And after that, I would consider that done. I will go over into a more in-depth video about that eventually. Just how to make my pieces feel more finished. But anyway, I just had so much fun with this project, and I'm so glad that I could finally share this with you. I've been wanting to work on some more study, like learn with me kind of videos since freaking 2 years ago. I think it's been 2 years now, maybe a year. I don't know. It's been a while since I've done one of these, and I'm so glad that I finally get to do one with you because it has helped me, and I know it will help you. I'll go over a little bit of a recap with you guys to make sure that you guys don't forget anything. Pick your light source and commit. Don't be afraid of the good old multiply layer. I know it's scary, it's easy to mess up on, but I gave you lots and lots of tips and tricks on how to fix it. Feel free to do it by hand otherwise. Another thing, mix the hard and the soft edges. Don't forget about the inverse square log. After that, add the subsurface scattering and the bounce light as a clipping mask above the multiply layer. Copy the multiply layer and make the copy an overlay layer. After that, add a few highlights, make that an overlay layer, and play with the opacities as you see fit. So that was a lot of info, and I am so sorry. If you just grab one of these tips and try it on your next piece, I promise it will look so much better. If y'all have any specific tutorials or drawing challenges you want me to cover, please let me know in the comments. I would love to take a look there. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that stuff. See you in the next one. Bye bye.